This is the HickoryHound report for April the 6th, 2025. I wrote this podcast before President Trump made his speech on tariffs and presented the information this past week. And today I present this to you, and they run along the same lines. This is about what's happened to this area as a result of the bad trade deals that have gone on in this country over the past 30 years. When I was going to college at UNC Wilmington and I was taking economics and finance classes, they were pushing the idea back in the late 80s that free trade was great. But the problem was that the other countries weren't supposed to have tariffs either. And they imposed their will on us with these tariffs. And essentially, we've been supporting their people to be taken advantage of at the same time that we've been taken advantage of. And the elite in this world have been taking advantage of all of us by scraping the profit off of the top. And what they did was work to make labor as cheap as possible. They took advantage of people and their skills. I mean, no one would ever say that I was a socialist because I believe in a meritocracy. And those who work harder get rewarded more. And that's part of the problem with what is going on. You have people that are working themselves to death and they're not making the money. I mean, you look at how much the cost of living was back 50 years ago, and people could afford a house. My grandparents, they paid $16,000 for their house in 1965, and we just had to sell it because of Highway 321 coming through. And essentially, those pieces of property are worth over $300,000 now. That is not because the house became more valuable. It's because of the depreciation of the dollar. And what's happened is, I mean, when you look into the creation of the Federal Reserve, you look at monetary policy in this country, you look at the two Bretton Woods agreements and the turning our monetary system away from a solid gold standard to what we have now with the fiat currency and just constant erosion of our lifeblood, which is our money. I mean, so you worked all these years and you made your money, and they've devalued the money, so you can't even retire on your money anymore. You got to work till the day you die. And the whole Social Security system is a Ponzi scheme. Everybody gets all worked up about it, and I don't believe anybody should have their Social Security taken away, but it became a transfer system where you go in and you put your money into that system and your money erodes. It's not put into any kind of investment. So essentially, the only investment is the Ponzi scheme, where the original people that put their money into it get more out of it than the people that come behind them. And so I'll talk about that eventually, but let's get into the nuts and bolts of this podcast. The Foothills Corridor, forgotten by design, fierce by nature. Western North Carolina isn't just mountains and tourist traps. It's not Asheville's breweries or Boone's college kids. There's a stretch of land here, my Foothills Corridor, that's been the working backbone of this region for generations. It's not a name you'll find on a map, but it's a region you'll feel in your bones if you've lived it. It runs west of Interstate 85, north of US 74, east of the Blue Ridge Parkway, and south of US 421. This isn't a city or a county. It's a way of life. A place defined by its people, its pride, and its quiet struggle. The corridor spans towns like Hickory, the heart, along with Lenoir, Morganton, Marion, Rutherfordton, Newton, Lincolnton, Valdez, Taylorsville, Maiden, Claremont, and Granite Falls. It stretches east to the Yadkin River Valley with Statesville, Moxville, and Winston-Salem, north along US 421 to North Wilkesboro and Boone, and south to Gastonia, Shelby, and Kings Mountain. These are places built with calloused hands, fueled by mills and factories, and bound by a shared history that's been overlooked for too long. A chosen land. The Foothills Corridor didn't happen by accident. The Scotch-Irish, Germans, and others from Europe's old valleys settled here for a reason. They weren't chasing rugged peaks or coastal sprawl. They wanted balance. East of the Parkway down the slope of the Blue Ridge, they found a climate and a terrain that echoed their homelands. The Piedmont of Italy, the Rhine Valley of Germany, the flatlands of Austria. Fertile soil, gentle hills, 4 seasons without a brutal isolation of the high country. This was a place to build, not just survive. They brought a work ethic with them, turning farms into factories, textiles, furniture, tobacco, fiber optics. By the mid-20th century, the corridor was a quiet industrial powerhouse. Hickory churned out furniture that filled American homes. North Wilkesboro had Holly Farms, a poultry giant that fed the nation. Winston-Salem smoked the country with R.J. Reynolds. These weren't flashy places, but they were vital. The engine room of western North Carolina. The fork in the road. Then the 90s hit, and the corridor slammed into a wall. Global trade deals, NAFTA, WTO, ripped the rug out from underneath us. Hickory's furniture plants shuttered as jobs sailed overseas. Textiles followed. Fiber optics couldn't hold the line. Up north, Tyson bought out Holly Farms in 1989. Bush-Clinton-era policies favoring megacorps over local roots. It wasn't just a sale. It was a betrayal that stripped North Wilkesboro of its identity. Tobacco crumbled too, leaving Wilkes County small farmers with empty barns and pride that couldn't pay the bills. Even moonshining, the outlaw economy of the hills, was squeezed out by regulation. Asheville, once Hickory's sister city, took a different path. Back in the day, they grew on parallel tracks, modest, working-class towns with steady promise. But when trade winds shifted, Asheville pivoted, leaning into tourism, arts, and outdoor vibes to become the cosmopolitan darling of the region. Hickory didn't get the chance. No one handed us a rebrand. We got hollowed out instead. Boone, propped up by a university and ski slopes, drifted towards Asheville's orbit. Winston-Salem, a bigger mirror of Hickory, scrambles to define itself with healthcare and tech, but its outer edges still bleed with poverty. North Wilkesboro, too far off the beaten path, too proud to beg, too broken to bounce back. The soul of the corridor. What ties the Foothills Corridor together isn't just geography, it's a way of life. These are working people, factory hands, farmers, grandmothers raising kids on faith and grit. They mow their own grass, fix their own trucks, and pray before dinner. They're not loud. They don't march or shout. They show up day after day, even when jobs dry up and the promises fade. Church steeples outnumber the stoplights here. Independence runs deep, sometimes too deep, like in Wilkes County, where it's both a badge and a burden. This isn't Appalachia proper, with its rugged myths and federal grants. It's not Charlotte's urban hum either. It's a middle ground, literally and figuratively, caught between the eras. The corridor's towns once thrived on making things you couldn't touch: chairs, clothes, cigarettes, chicken. Now they're left with a civic fatigue and a quiet dignity no one outside notices. They're not mountain folk or city people. They're foothills people, settled where the land was manageable, the seasons made sense, and the work was honest. They weren't looking for escape. They were looking for stability. The forgotten fight. The Foothills Corridor has been forgotten by design, not by fault. Hickory didn't collapse because it lacked vision. It collapsed because global trade gutted its base. North Wilkesboro didn't fade because it gave up. It faded because Tyson and Big Tobacco left it no choice. Winston-Salem stands, but it's a shadow of what it could be. This is a living region failed by policy, not by people. The factories once roared here. Now the silence feels like an insult. The people deserve better. The factory worker who lost his line job. The young person with no reason to stay, but no way to leave. The man with the worn-out toolbox and a voice no one asked to hear. They're not asking for handouts. They're asking for a fair shot, a seat at the table, a chance to rebuild what was taken. The region doesn't have a tech hub, a PR firm, or a champion in the legislature. But it has me, and maybe it has you. If you've ever looked around and said, "Why does no one care what's happening around here?" You're part of the corridor too. A voice for the future. The Foothills Corridor isn't just a place, it's a story. It's about what happens when hard work meets hard luck, when pride meets neglect. It's a region overlooked because it doesn't scream for attention, but it's fierce by nature. There's still life here, still talent, still grit. Question is whether anyone's listening. I call myself the spokesperson for the forgotten, rooted in the heart of the Foothills Corridor. This isn't about me, it's about us. From Hickory's mills to North Wilkesboro's hollowed streets, from Winston-Salem's fringes to Lenore's quiet corners, this is our turf. West of I-85, east of the Parkway, north of 74, south of 421. It's not a tourist map, but it's on mine. We're the backbone. We're the builders. We're the people who stayed. We're not shouting from podiums. We're speaking from the ground, where real work happens, where the real people live. We've been forgotten, but we're not gone. We're not done. This is our voice, and I'm here to make sure it's heard. Tuesday's article was the State of Hickory 2009 versus now 2025. Back in 2009, Hickory was in crisis. 28,000 metro jobs were gone, and temp agencies ran the labor scene. Fast forward to 2025, and while we've gained 3,000 jobs since 2018, most of them are in warehousing and healthcare, not high-paying alternative energy and biotech jobs. Temp agencies still dominate, and turnover is high. The median home price is around $300,000, and renting a room costs about $1,000 a month. That's manageable, but on a $66,000 income, it gets tight, especially if you're paying $800 to $1,000 a month for child care. Daily life, we've got parks, breweries, and decent amenities. But young people keep leaving. Schools are average, and the future seems tied more to data centers than bold innovation. That risks more brain drain unless things change. Thursday's article was entitled Hickory's Evolution 2010 to 2025 and Beyond. In 2010, Hickory had a 12.5% unemployment rate. Young talent was fleeing and leadership felt flat. By 2025, we've seen real progress. Unemployment's dropped 4 to 5%, and the median income now sits between 66,000 and 68,000. Compared to back then, it was in the low 40,000s. Growth has come from Apple's data center, healthcare, and some resurgence in manufacturing, although we have lost about 10,000 manufacturing jobs over time. Housing's still affordable, with median house prices around $300,000 and rents for two-bedroom apartments at around $1,400. Crime's higher than the national average, but overall safety has improved. Education and healthcare are both local strengths, but we're still struggling to keep young people here. Looking ahead to 2035, tech and clean energy could bring in 2,000 to 3,000 manufacturing jobs. Hickory offers stability and opportunity, but to avoid falling into the same trap we faced in 2010, we need bold, visionary leadership to move the region forward. If you want to follow my work, you can find me on the HickoryHound blog and the HickoryHound YouTube channel. You can also follow me on X at HickoryHound. Back when all of the censorship was going on and the lawfare and such, I kept getting these 24-hour bans and got a 72-hour ban and had to erase some really mundane stuff to appease the San Francisco critics. I wear that as a badge of honor. Well, I dropped the Twitter channel and lost all of my connections there. So if you are on X, formerly Twitter, please give me a follow. Patreon is coming soon, and I'll be sharing more details as that gets finalized. Feel free to shoot me an email anytime at hickoryhoundfeedback@gmail.com. I do read that when it comes in. And if you stop by YouTube, please like and subscribe. It really does help more folks see what we're talking about around here. The paperback cookbook, A Book of Seasons, is hopefully going to be available in the next couple of days. You know, I am doing this all myself, but AI is assisting me. The spine of the book has to be perfect, and it was a little off. So I gathered and collated all of this stuff, and all of my life I've had to procure everything, prep it, cook it, assemble it, and deliver the product. And yeah, I've had to tell people what it is. When you go through life and have to do everything by yourself, well, it'll wear you out sometimes. When things don't go like you want because of stupid mistakes, when you get into too much of a hurry and the perfect little people in their perfect little worlds decide to cut you down, well, that'll leave you a little jaded. Heck, the first person that says that I ever said that I was perfect is a dishonest person. I just try to survive, to live to fight another day. And after I should have died in that car wreck back on September 27th, I try not to take my days for granted, because not a day goes by that those moments during that wreck don't flash before my eyes. I'll be honest, I haven't done a great job of promoting this project over the years. Self-promotion has never come natural to me. But I believe the information matters, and it's time to start sharing it right. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your willingness to hear things that don't always get said. I'll see you next time.